Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the NJ1ST podcast. My name is Ryan McDonald. Thank you for coming back. I have another guest joining me today, Mary Jo Guinchard. Mary Jo Guinchard. She's running in Congressional District 5. That's in North New Jersey. Thank you for joining us today, Mary.
Thank you so much for having me, Ryan. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you. And this is a free speech platform. People come on. You can give the people of New Jersey your thoughts. People reach out to you and get interactive in New Jersey politics. So please introduce yourself and explain to the viewers why you're running for Congress.
Well, my name is Mary Joanne Guinchard, and I'm on the ballot. It's going to be Mary Jo Guinchard. Thought we would make it very simple for everybody. And I am running because I care. There is a lot going on in our country and a lot of politicians that say a lot of things, but they're really not out there for the people. I have 2 grandsons. I have my own grown children, and America, really, it's a time that we all have to roll up our sleeves and get our country back on track again. I think that you probably agree that, we're seeing things that we haven't seen or that we ever thought about that we would see in our lifetime. I'm a former mayor, a former trustee, which is comparable to a council person. I've sat on planning boards of counties, and I never thought we would be where we are today in our country with the situations that we're confronted with. So it is time that we care. We just need to care and do the job. We don't need to be having politicians as a career. We are here for the people, and we need to get back to that mindset.
Awesome. Thank you. And I can't wait to get into a great discussion. Probably shoot for 30 minutes. If you want to go longer, we can definitely do that.
Beautiful.
And
whatever that works for you.
And I myself have ties to Congressional District 5. Was redistricted, but I helped Frank Pallotta in 2020 and 2022. We were able to defeat the county ballot line for Congressional District 5.
Right.
I really love that we were able to do that work, and now it's redistricted. You have a little bit of a different battle with the redistricting, but Josh Gottheimer is still that guy who the Democrats put up. Even the rhinos across the state, the problem-solving caucus, the Brian Fitzpatricks of Pennsylvania, they have no problem with Josh Gottheimer, but it's great to see that you are challenging him strong, going down to the border, showing that this is a problem, affects New Jerseyans, and you're taking it headstrong. I really do appreciate that. That's awesome, and thanks for coming on again.
Absolutely. Thank you. And you started with something that's really passionate to me. I am from Texas, actually, and have been living on the East Coast for a very, very long time. I'm from, Dallas originally. That's why you may see me in cowboy boots all the time. I'm truly a Texas girl. But the border is a very passionate thing. I don't think just for me, but for this entire country. We have opened up these borders to, area that, we've never seen before. Where can you travel in the world today that you just walk through a border and no ID, no nothing, and you're welcomed 100%? That just doesn't happen.
And if Americans don't travel, just go on YouTube. There's plenty of times people try and cross the border. It doesn't happen. It's exactly like you just said. Yeah.
Yeah. So we went there probably, I want to say it's been 3 weeks now, 3.5 weeks. We decided immediately, I decided immediately to go. We went from McAllen all the way to Eagle Pass. We went right into where Shelby Park is, through the new fencing that they did that connected that area. We were there with the National Guard, the state troopers, the Border Patrol, and I have to say to the Lone Star Division of the National Guard, they're doing an amazing job. But we, as the legislators, as your Congress, as your Senate, as your president, all the way through the governors, I want to even throw into this pot. We have to stand together and say that we need to control the border. I don't think many of us have come from immigrant parents, right? And grandparents. We know that they all came in the right way. And that's what America is about. We open our arms and we want to embrace those who want to come to our country. But you've got to come in the right way. You cannot expect 10 million people to just all of a sudden be in our country and we're going to be sustainable. We're not going to be sustainable.
I appreciate you touching on that, even though we weren't going to speak about it.
We weren't going to go right there, right. But sorry about
that. I appreciate you touching on it because it's to show the people that you're in the fight. You're putting your feet on the ground, going back forth, and making people aware of the human trafficking, the dissemination of illegal immigrants into America through buses, all that we're seeing in the news. But we need leaders who are actually going to go on the ground. I think I just saw RFK Jr. go to the border, and they said that he was the only second Democrat to ever go to the border. But I really appreciate you bringing that up, and we'll go into the first question I have for you regarding the Second Amendment. That is the theme of this question. And in New Jersey, I probably should have been prepared with the exact votes, but we had state senator at the time, Tom Kean Jr., vote for a red flag gun law, extreme risk protection order. He is now a congressman. And we had as well Holly Schapese, when she was an assemblywoman, she voted in favor of this, and Robert Auth, people over in Bergen County who are fighters for New Jersey. But I've brought up this violation of the Second Amendment. They had their vote. And that's in 2018. Times passed. Donald Trump supports red flag gun laws. I support Donald Trump, but I do not support his understanding of the Second Amendment. In regards like that, people who are in the Second Amendment community understand what I'm talking about. So I would just like to hear your opinions on the Second Amendment. And if you understand the red flag gun laws, the extreme risk protection orders, because I, as well, before I get your opinion, I just interviewed a young gentleman, 18, 17 years old, that him and his Vietnam veteran grandfather were victims of this red flag gun law in conservative Ocean County. I brought it to light, but these are violations of the Second Amendment, Fourth Amendment, and Fifth Amendment. But if you just would like to give the viewers any views on that.
Well, if you had, if you saw my debate that I had prior, last year, I'm very pro Second Amendment, and it's written in its way. I think our forefathers were absolutely above and beyond their times in how they constructed the document of our Constitution. So when you get into this new red flag issue, it's a very tricky thing, because are people going to use it to be vindictive against others? Where is the line going to be drawn? And once you open up, and I understand where everybody's coming from. I mean, we don't want any guns to be in the hands of anyone that is not, competent to have a weapon. But where do you draw that line? And is that going to be taken advantage of? Because once this gets opened, it's opened. And then it can go to the extreme of extremes. And are we going to end up like other countries that have taken weapons away? And we've seen where that has gone in places like Cuba. So these type of laws, although many of us are probably on the same page of protecting, but if a criminal wants a weapon, let's just talk about criminals first. They're going to find the weapons. I don't care how strict your gun laws are. Look at Chicago, has some of the strictest gun laws in the country, and they have the most killings with their guns in the country. So it's not the laws, I feel, that are going to keep the guns out of people. It's us holding the criminals accountable, or the person that is using the weapon in a criminal act. We've got to hold those people accountable for their actions, so they know we're not going to be lenient. They're not going to be let out with a zero bail. These are issues that I think they are important. None of us are disagreeing, but the Second Amendment is the Second Amendment. And if we want to strengthen the Second Amendment, let's strengthen our laws against criminals in the court system.
Appreciate that view. So people, if you have any other questions for Mary Jo, you can reach out to her to get more descriptive details on it. And for the state of New Jersey, it won't affect your position running for Congress. I believe there are some red flag gun laws already passed in Congress. So you wouldn't have to vote on that, but you would be able to maybe repeal it. And that is what I'm going to be talking about just briefly with New Jersey State Senate. That was Ed Durr. He had legislation to repeal the red flag gun laws. He was a champion, and New Jersey Republicans, they let him down. And I just wanted to let you know that, because the red flag gun laws really do target people that aren't the criminals. Like you just said, the gentleman that I was talking with he was a younger gentleman, an 18-year-old. The school was worried about mental health. These are the right things to be worried about. And that's why a red flag gun law was triggered. Myself, someone who was born with and lived with Tourette's syndrome my whole entire life, is classified as mental health. I will be under the scrutiny of the state if I want my Second Amendment right. So I want people to understand these are not issues that are done in the grave just because our Republicans don't fight for us. There's still people who are talking about that with mental health. And if you want to have any views before we go on to the next question.
Well, I would just say that you just pointed to a very, very good question, or a comment actually, is that where is that definition going to lie to, protect that? And that's where it becomes such an open book, and people can take advantage of that and then target innocent individuals. That's what I'm afraid of. I am all for keeping protection, and obviously we all understand that what's been happening in the schools and the guns and all of that, but we're not going to keep the weapons out of those hands who are just determined to get it. So it's holding the accountability. And, none of us have the perfect answer. That's why you have many members of Congress and many members of Senate, that we can all come together and have these discussions with our constituents, so we can draft the best possible ways to address, I think, the most sensitive issues that are confronting us today in our country.
Appreciate that. Before we move on to the next question, a fun fact for viewers and yourself. In 2019, the New Jersey Second Amendment community ran a marketing campaign, either bang or bong. You could either have your Second Amendment right, or you can get medical marijuana. And
Right.
they tried this campaign, but it was, they tried their best, but a lot of veterans chose medical marijuana for PTSD, for anxiety. They chose that rather than pills. And this conflicted with their Second Amendment rights. There was people who were becoming felons right away just for going through the process of medical marijuana and owning guns already. I found out that there are some county level procedures where the sheriff would come to your house and interview you, so you could have a medical marijuana card and Second Amendment. Just a fun fact, and we'll leave it there. We'll go on to the next question. Is congressional fiscal responsibility. And this has to do with spending. We're in our, I think, $34 trillion of debt. Specifically, the omnibus bills, the spending bills are always on the topic of people's thoughts. I believe in April, we're going to have to be talking about spending bills again. It is the topic of it is we don't want to pass bills that are overbroad. We want single line voting bills. We want to know what's these bills. And in CD5, where you're running, Frank Pallotta, I asked him before his opinion during the COVID crisis, whether or not we have to bail out companies, bail out the American people. And Thomas Massey Jr. was against it. Thomas Massey Jr. stepped up to Donald Trump. He said, we cannot do this. It's unconstitutional. Happened anyway. The $4 trillion debt came on. That was the CARES Act. But bygone begot bygones. I mean, this happens all the time. It's going to be happening again. Who knows how much more trillions we can go into, but I would love your opinion. I would love your opinion on fiscal responsibility. Can we cut a lot of stuff out? Is it maybe the military industrial complex? Is it lobbyists, foreign aid? Where do you see the fiscal responsibility and your vote in Congress?
The first thing is our military should always be top on the list that we uphold. And that's our frontline defense of our country, our first responders, our military. As a former mayor, budget was my thing, that you're always looking at the budget to make sure you're being fiscally responsible, you're dealing with things, and you're not just throwing stuff in that people don't understand what's going on. There are ways to trim budgets. Very simple. You have to be proactive in some cases. Sometimes I think we're more reactive in our country than proactive. Infrastructure, things like that we should be addressing. I heard a speaker the other day talking about we have so many bridges here in New Jersey that are, crumbling, that are in trouble. Instead of us being proactive and thinking about the cost of if we need to repair, what do we need to do? We should not wait for something to totally come down to a situation that is in just absolute, not even in compliance of being safe. So then you've added all these costs on. You need to think about, all of the ways of the pensions. Now, there's some things that are out of your hands that are just mandated that you have to do. So you've got to go line by line and really look at, my biggest worry right now is we have let 10 million people into this country. So that is going to be very impactful on our budget. I know that we're giving, health insurance to many of the people. I've just come down from New York City and Brooklyn, where we have got, I counted almost 6,000 people. They have 2,000 sections within, the Naval Airfield there, and they're getting everything. And the children are going to school. That's a strain on the school systems. So how are we going to sustain? We're already in debt. We already have to look at the budgets the way we are. We have veterans that are homeless that need to be taken care of. We have our senior citizens that we need to take care of. We've got the Social Security system that's in trouble. And now we've added 10,000 more people, let's call it, onto the payroll. And we need to take care of what's happening here first. But you know what? The genie's out of the bottle. So we've got to address this. And this is something I think that's going to be a very big challenge to America, to the municipalities, to, you know, our budget as the country, to the state budget. This is the domino effect. This is happening all across the country. So Ryan, we have an enormous situation to look at in this budget because, you know, if you look at what are the duties of Congress in our Constitution, we are supposed to protect, you know, our lands. We are supposed to protect the people. We're supposed to protect the waters. But now we've added 10 million more people. Plus, the numbers are still coming in. So, you know, if you figure, I think Chicago did a percentage somewhere that I read that every person that's on the system in Chicago right now of the, you know, illegal aliens that are coming in across the border and ending up in Chicago, that is $30,000 a year cost to the city. And we've been hearing on the news what all of the residents are saying. We've got an issue, and it's not going to be easy for any of us to look at, but we're going to have to work together. We're going to have to, as a complete Congress, not just as Republicans and not just Democrats, but together, because this problem is a problem that we have never seen in this magnitude.
And on the domestic front, you're 100% correct. The first answer that you alluded to was the military budget, and that's when I looked into it with Matt Gaetz going line by line with the most recent Speaker McCarthy battle. He was going line by line, and I was surprised of how much the budget. Well, I guess I shouldn't have been surprised, but how much the budget is just military spending. It's not really the domestic front. But I completely agree with what you were saying with how we have our problems with the domestic front. So with the budget and the fiscal responsibility in regarding the military spending, just for viewers, are you familiar with Dwight Eisenhower's warning to the American people, the military industrial complex? Yes?
Yes.
Yes, great. And so that's what I'm getting to with the military budget. Now, it seems like when we give all this money to the military industrial complex, our military, it's overseas as well. It's going to private industry. They're making bombs. They're making planes, Boeing, for instance, Nikki Haley. Shout out to Nikki Haley. But the budget is mainly for the military. Okay, so that's great that you understand the military industrial complex is something that we have to keep an eye on and slash, and it should come home, be protecting the domestic people on our domestic front, our southern border, 100%. That's awesome. So
if I could add 1 second, that really worries me. We can't leave the items overseas that end up in the hands of terrorists.
Right.
So we won't even address that, how many trillions of dollars we left in Afghanistan. So when we're talking about, you know, being fiscally responsible, I feel that we should also be physically responsible, just not leaving things that end up in the wrong hands because we just funded terrorists at that point.
In a sense, we're talking like we're the Roman Empire because it kind of is like the same way. And in the way of understanding that, that is the military. So we can maybe pivot a little bit towards foreign aid. And just next week or this month, Speaker Johnson is coming to New Jersey. He's coming to Tom Kaine. He's coming to Christine Glassner. It's their bunch. They got their whole fundraising thing with the Speaker Johnson. And he is this week going to be proposing another $14 billion for aid to Israel for congressional vote. Thomas Massey Jr. is the one who's bringing this up to light. I was just curious if you were a congresswoman today, if you had to vote on this additional $14 billion to Israel this week, I was wondering how you would vote on that.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, you know, we're all pro-Israel for sure, and we have to protect. But my worry is, as much as we protect our allies, which we, you know, we're all in that for sure, we can never forget that we have to protect our homeland equally as well. In my opinion, right now, we are starting to feel that we're infiltrated a little bit. Are we prepared with whoever we have let come into this country? Are we prepared right now to defend our homeland? So as much as we always are there preparing to protect our allies and Israel and all the places that we need to be there, I think we're in different waters that we are now navigating. So we need to, for sure, make sure that we never forget that we've got our borders as equally well to protect. And that's what's worrying me a little bit. I'm not, this is all new. This is all new. I think the last time, let's be realistic, 9/11, we had, remember the bombing in Oklahoma City, which was, our own terrorists inside.
When I was born.
We have had, let's not forget, Pearl Harbor as well, right? So we cannot ever let anyone think we are not the powerful country that we should be, which will bring us to a whole nother discussion later. But we have to be the superpower. We have to have strength from the top of our pyramid, which is our president. We cannot let leaders feel that we are weak and that we are not willing to defend our country how we need to defend it.
And this will be a great segue over to the one of the final questions. But just sorry to push back.
No problem.
What would you vote yes or no for additional $14 billion of Israel spending if you were a congresswoman?
I would say we will vote for it. Do we have the money? We just keep spinning paper, right? So we're going to have to defend Israel. We are going to have to wipe out terrorism. Terrorism is terrorism. So if our whole point is to make sure that we are protecting those countries that need to be protected and ours, we have to stand by and vote to protect those countries. But we cannot just be spending money just to spend it. We have to stop. We have to stop politicizing just to fight. So yes, we are going to stand, and we will stand behind those bills for sure. But I don't want us to constantly keep just spending the money, because we're spending them now on illegal immigration that's coming in. And we've got those issues in Israel. We've got all of these issues that we need to be focused on. And, are we going to keep that focus? So, yes.
I really do appreciate the free speech. I don't agree with it at all, but that's my opinion. And that's great. I really do appreciate you coming on and giving the viewers. We
have to look at that. We have to be careful.
We've been doing it for decades. We've been protecting them for too long. We've been protecting them for too long. They're a very wealthy. They're a very wealthy nation. They can afford their own military. We need to keep our money for ourselves. We're $34 trillion in debt, but we're going to leave it there. Unless you have something last to say. Go ahead.
Is anyone going to ever come to our aid if we need aid from anyone? Because we've always been going to everyone else's aid.
Right. And I always give Israel credit. I give Israel credit. They came to Florida during the hurricane of 2022. They came and they helped people because I believe it was really hard work. It really devastated Florida. But I don't remember them giving us billions of dollars for decades. But
we're always giving the billions. We're always getting the billions.
And that's why I don't agree with it. We can't vote for it. We should vote no. But we'll leave it there. How about that? Agree to disagree.
No, we can agree to disagree. It's one of those items for sure that, we, as they have been doing all of this for decades, as we know, we've been giving to every country possible. I think that's something that former presidents have always said, addressed the UN, that said it's time that you start paying us back. We are a good country that's always helping. But at some point, how much more can we sustain? We are $6 trillion in debt.
Okay, after
growing.
Yep. After the interest and all that stuff. Yep.
That's
okay.
Right.
And this will segue over to war and foreign entanglements, and that's which Mary Jo was just alluding to with our founding fathers, where they gave us this transcript of foreign entanglements. To get out of these things, even though if we're trying to be benevolent, you can't fix the world's problems. Fix your own people first. So we'll segue this over to war and foreign entanglements. We basically just covered the foreign entanglements. We don't have to really look at that except on the war side. Unfortunately, we just struck back hard. I don't know who were the casualties. Hopefully they were militants, just because if you're signing up for war, you probably know what you're getting into. But we struck back on the Iranian-backed forces in Syria and Iraq. Now, I just want viewers to remember that USA still occupies 1/3 of Syria. These are votes that Congress members would be voting on. But I would love, just because we had a great conversation, and we'll wrap up just for people's to view it, the whole thing. Your opinion on war, and would you vote or how you would vote on war, what your opinion on the past couple of wars with Iraq, Syria, Afghanistan, and just your opinion overall.
Well, war is never a win, as we know. The Vietnam War, we could talk about several of the wars, the casualties, the violence. I do not condone violence on any level whatsoever. And there are times we've had to go to war, and history tells us that. But we cannot enter wars just to enter them for no reason. We try to sit here and take over. We have religious wars going on that have gone on through biblical times, as we know. And, there are so many casualties that happen during these times that, it's one of those things that you want to make sure that there's humanity and everything that is correctly going on, but you cannot sit there and condone when you've got innocent lives being trapped in the middle of what's going on. So, going to war is a very, very big decision for Congress to ever be part of. And I think that, it's something that I would hope through time, as we have seen, they have always taken seriously. We have had generations that have been totally against war. I am for peace, honestly. If there's a way that we can somehow work things out, I've always jokingly said, as before I got into becoming a mayor or anything like that, I would love to get the politicians into their own room and let them battle it out themselves of how they need to do, and then let the civilians, keep going on. The civilians never win. They never win at all. And we're seeing that right now, what's going on with, the children that are involved. And, we see the pictures through the press and everything. It's quite disturbing. And we see it now more so than when I was a child, and it was just the news feed that you got, maybe days later or hours upon hours. Now we're seeing real time of what's going on. Mm-hmm. That is very, very disturbing. So, my dad was in World War II. My husband's father was a military man. Many of our elected officials are in the military. I absolutely 100% support our military, and they have a job to do, and it's a very difficult job. And right now we are seeing so many wars going on and so many situations happening. And for me, in the past years that we've had other administrations, we were not in this position that we're in right now. And I really, truly believe it's because of leadership. And our leadership looks weak. Our country is not being taken seriously. We need a leader that they are going to look up to, that is going to show that we have the strength and that we are not going to tolerate what's going on. I mean, I can't even imagine how other presidents would have reacted in the situations that we're being confronted right now. These leaders would not have pushed the buttons, I think, that they have pushed. I don't think the terrorists, we had everything under control at the point in time, and now we are just open to being vulnerable. And we cannot be looking like a vulnerable nation, because we're not. We are a strong nation.
And like you said before, superpower, and these are the buzzwords in politicos and even in the academia halls. So right. For all different wars, whether it be over in the Middle East or Ukraine and Russia, and I'd love to get one more question out of that for you, but are you more in favor of the superpower playing a role, that diplomatic role, whether it be with money, whether it be with putting boots on the ground to assist training like we've done with Ukraine? Or are you someone who, like myself, I guess people call me radical, bring the boots back home, don't help those foreign countries? We have so many people we have to help here, but people say that's a very radical position. I just would like to know if you think that America should still be that superpower, that mediator.
There's a word that, when you say mediator, that's a fine line, right? Because are you going to be a mediator and then just try to completely finance their entire mission? No. And that's what we've been doing. And,
right.
Like we just talked about earlier, they're not going to ever come and finance us perfectly. And a lot of these countries have the finances. They have the wherewithal to do that. It's one thing to support in the way of we stand by our allies, but we cannot just sit there and take away our troops and then all of a sudden we just touched upon that. We become vulnerable. Our waters are not protected. Look at our border right now.
Mm-hmm.
We are not going to solve some issues. And you know what? We are a humanitarian country. We always are there to help everyone. But how far can you keep bleeding, the
Mm-hmm.
dollar? So, we cannot sit here and constantly keep getting into situations that we now are going to put, aren't we responsible for our country? And that's what our Constitution talks about as well. We are to protect our people, be responsible, as we talked about, the fiduciary responsibilities, our lands. But if we let our military just all of a sudden be just strained here where they're not able to, what's going to happen? What's going to happen?
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be vulnerable.
Yeah, I really, really do appreciate you coming on and speaking with me, Free Speech Platform. I have one last question that I always ask candidates. I don't really hear many people ask this question because I don't know why, but I love when people have answers. Do you have any legislation planned that you plan on bringing with you if you are elected to Congress? Or if you don't, is there a particular person that you would be excited to work with?
Well, first of all, I cannot wait for Billy Prempa to become a congressman either, honestly, because I know that we've got, not very many from New Jersey there. And so to be able to have, especially the two districts that touch and border here in Bergen County, would be wonderful to be working together with Billy. So I do have some passions of mine that I would like to. And first of all, I want to work with all the congressmen. I want to reach out and make sure they know where I stand, what I want to do, and hopefully have them on board with what I want. We have some wonderful ones up there. We have some ones that we're not so sure how they stand. And obviously, we're clinging on to majority, and we need to become much stronger with majority as well. Obviously, the border, I think, is top on my list. I know they've got many bills coming across on, regarding the border. I think we need to be stronger and really more pushy of what we want to do, because right now, if you're talking about economics and trafficking, that's also one of my other passions as well. That is really, you've got to find what is the foundation of all of this, and it's the borders. We have opened up, I've mentioned this, I kind of use it as the word, we've opened up Pandora's box, and I've been to the border. I've seen it. I've witnessed it. I was right there on, the Rio Grande at Shelby Pass, Shelby Park. We're trafficking. Let's just call it what it is right now. We're trafficking. We're letting the drugs come through. We saw the coyotes running across the river. I'm going back, in the next month or so. I've been down there to New York. I'm going to other places. So, the number one thing is we've got to set some very strong laws about how we are going to address this border, and not just the Texas portion of it. That border goes much further up, because the more west you go, that's where the fentanyl is coming in. The southern you go, more of the trafficking. So the number one thing is that. Another passion is the school choice. Now, I know that falls into the state and things like that, but I think we should be supportive of our state legislators of school choice. It's been brought up many times by people that, we should have that option, that, we're all paying super high taxes. People can't afford to even buy new homes, the ones that are coming out of college and newly getting married. The economy's gone through the roof. The taxes have gone through the roof. So, if you're paying those school taxes, and you know what, they go, oh, but I'm renting. Well, guess what? In that rent, that's factored in those taxes as well. So if we make it competitive for the schools to stop indoctrinating and start educating, maybe we could get things a little bit more back on track. And then let's hold people accountable for what they're doing to our first responders. We've just witnessed in New York City where the gentleman, zero bail. He's now in California. I don't know if you know that, but he was taken out and brought to California all the way. So he's not in New York State anymore, the two gentlemen, allegedly is what has been reported. Zero bail. Now, the Marine that tried to protect people on the subway of New York, he had to pay, what, $100 million in bail?
And he was in jail.
So, we've got to start protecting. We've got to start making our laws stronger. If someone has hurt a first responder, a police officer, we must start protecting and strengthening those laws, the accountability. The reason why crime is so high is why? There is no accountability. So as a congresswoman, I want to address the trafficking. I want to address our borders. I want to address the school choice. And most importantly, the accountability of the crimes that we are letting people get away with. We've got to be back to being the strong nation that we were, that someone knew that if they did something wrong, they are going to be held accountable. This whole, sanctuary states that we have, that you can do anything you want to do. I don't know anywhere in the country, forget the country, I apologize for saying that, anywhere in the world that we can go to. And if we committed a crime, we know how that's going to end up. We're going to be in jail. So we need to get back to where we were as a country and show that strength and be the superpower. And, energy. I mean, that could be a whole nother segment that we do on our independence of energy. That is just, for me, all of this is a domino effect. That one thing falls into the other thing, falls into the other thing. The minute we took away our energy independence, I feel like we started just falling apart as well. So all of this together, and then how are we, as you're saying, when you start doing all of those things, we are then funding other countries because we're buying oil from other countries.
Right.
And so where is that money going?
To the coffers of the profiteers, yeah. But I really love that you came on and spoke with the NJ First viewers. I hope that you come back on. Maybe we can schedule something and have more conversations. I found Mary Jo Guinchard running for commissioner in Bergen County. She was on the ground, grassroots patriots, even involved with the parental rights. And now she's throwing her hat in for Congress, Congressional District 5 up in North New Jersey, taking on Josh Gottheimer. And that's a big one right there because, well, he's weaseled his way in as much as he can to the establishment. He was a speechwriter for Bill Clinton. He's nothing. Right? He's got all the money. He's got all the apparatus behind him. The way to beat him is a grassroots movement. Contact Mary Jo, get in touch with her, get on her campaign, donate, volunteer. Where can they find you in your campaign, Mary?
Well, that's what I was going to say. I wanted to throw one quick thing in. Josh Gottheimer allegedly is running for governor in 2025. So not only is he running for Congress, but he's 1 foot in and 1 foot out. So do you really want a congressman that is not fully committed to his campaign? And he's already across the state running for allegedly governor because, what else? They've already said it in the newspaper. So this is not coming first out of my mouth, but it's something that they're talking about. So, that's the biggest thing is that people have to realize, the money that you're giving him, you're essentially funding his gubernatorial campaign, not his congressional campaign. And he is being funded by the Clintons. And he was, as you said, Bill Clinton's speechwriter. So the way they can get a hold of me is simple. Go to my Facebook, Mary Jo for Congress. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, I'm on YouTube. The YouTube is not as active right now as Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. You can click on the antidote that is on all of those. Our webpage should be launched in the next week or so. It's being built out right now. I'll give you that address. Our website is maryjoforcongress.com, and that's for with an FOR. And the donations that are $100 and less, as you can see from Congressman Van Drew and Congressman Smith have talked about it. Those are your biggest, honestly, donors. Those add up so quickly. It's a big campaign. Josh has 17 million. I don't need 17 million. I kind of joked with someone the other day and they said, are you worried about how much he has? And I said, no, because I can shop much better than Mr. Gottheimer can. So, we are going to be boots on the ground. We go to every municipality. We're part of Sussex. We're part of Passaic. And we're part of Bergen. We look forward to supporting the congressional candidate for District 9 as well, and all of those candidates that are running for Senate, all the way up to president and all the way down to the municipalities that have, candidates running. Republicans, we need you to vote. Very important. We need you to vote by mail if that's the way that you want to vote, or vote in person, and donate to your campaigns to make sure that we can do what we need to do to get in the positions we need.
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining me when so many Republicans did not throughout the whole years. You were showing that you have the strength to come on in public and lead New Jersey to greatness. And I hope to see you again. Thanks for joining.
I thank you so much, Ryan. And you know what? I care so much, and I am so grateful that you give us a platform to come and speak and make it to where people can reach out to us. So thank you very much for all that you do to giving us that platform. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.